Who needs tacos de carne asada? Well, you got tacos de lengua, right? Cow tongue, it's one of the most underrated cuts of beef, and it's been traditionally cooked the same way for generations. A simple boil in a big old pot of water for a couple of hours. But what if there's a better way? A way to lock in some flavor, control the texture, and make it even more tender. I am cooking 2 lenguas 2 different ways and seeing if technology makes a difference or not, or if we're better off sticking with the traditional boil. Now, before we get cooking, let me share with you a pro tip that's gonna make all the difference in the world if you do this, no matter how you're cooking the lengua. When boiling the tongue the traditional way, all of the impurities naturally rise to the top, and you could just skim it off. But with sous vide, there's really no easy way to remove them mid-cook. And when using a slow cooker, where you're usually away while it cooks, well, this step is equally important. You have to soak the cow tongue in salted water for about 30 to 45 minutes. I'm using a 2% salt brine here. Why? Well, the quick soak helps reduce those excess impurities up front. It's going to keep the cooking process cleaner, and it's going to prevent any unwanted flavors from developing. It keeps the broth nice and clean. Now that the beef tongue has been soaked for 30 minutes, let's season this tongue. I'm placing in 2 teaspoons of kosher salt for this 3.5-pound lengua. Next, I'm adding cumin, about 2 teaspoons, and another 2 teaspoons of pepper. Give it a nice mix, and now season all sides evenly. Making sure to lick any of the seasoning left on the pan. I'm placing it in the bag, or attempting to put in the bag. I'm really struggling here. I should have used a bigger bag. Once in the bag, let me put in 2 bay leaves, a chile de árbol. Give it a nice touch of flavor. Most of the heat will be cooked out. Then I'll place about a quarter onion, 5 cloves of garlic, and then a very, very small piece of cinnamon. These are all the ingredients I use normally when boiling the lengua. Off camera, I did mix the ingredients around the bag before sealing. Once the bag is sealed, I'll drop it in the water. The sous vide is set to 170 Fahrenheit, and I'm gonna cook this for 24 hours. What? I know it's a long time. I know this is way more complicated than simply boiling it, but I'm hoping the sous vide method is going to introduce some amazing flavor. Hoping that it's going to be worth the 24 hours. Gotta cross my fingers. As a side experiment, I'm going to place a second lengua in a slow cooker. Same process as before. I'll brine in a salted solution for 45 minutes and then place in the cooker. And then add the same ingredients I did for the sous vide. I've never actually done this either, but I really like the idea of putting it to cook in the morning, and then after work it's going to be ready. Once I got all my ingredients in, I'll set it to low and cook it for 8 hours. Now, okay, so this method won't take as long as the sous vide, and compared to 24 hours, 8 hours isn't so bad. But I'm curious now, will there be any flavor differences? But you know what? No matter what the cooking style, boiling, sous vide, or slow cooker, there is a lack of color at the end. Meat just looks gray and kind of boring, so searing is an absolute must. You can certainly sear it on the stove. Use a cast iron is recommended. I also take the opportunity to add additional seasoning when searing, and a squeeze of lime or lemon juice. And the actual seared bits, well, they add a lot of flavor. Everyone is familiar with the term fat is flavor, but I think seared meat or the charred bits is also flavor. But since this is a grilling channel, I can't help but fire up the grill. And there's one thing you should consider lighting up the grill for yourself, and that's the green salsa. I am a big fan of green salsa for lengua tacos, but fire roasting the peppers, well, it makes for a delicious salsa. And since the grill is going to be nice and hot, I'm going to also be using it to sear. Anyways, for the green salsa, I'm dropping some tomatillos have been washed very well, and dropping a mix of serranos and jalapeno. Jalapenos usually aren't spicy, and that's why the serranos are up in the mix. Turn and rotate your peppers and tomatillos, being careful not to overcook the tomatillos. If you don't like green salsa because it's too tart or too sour, not cooking the tomatillos all the way through definitely helps with that. Let's remove. Now these look like a lot of peppers, but I'm not planning to add them all. I kind of like making this green salsa. I kind of don't like making this salsa too spicy. This way I can add a lot more to my taco. Plus, the wife doesn't really like spice all that much. You can remove the char on the peppers, but I'm going to leave it in this time. It adds color and texture. Place your ingredients in a blender with about a tablespoon of kosher salt and a clove of garlic. I roasted it earlier, but I completely forgot to show you. Oops. Once blended nicely, give it a quick taste for salt. Obviously, if you want it spicier, add more of the peppers and blend. But for me, this is perfect, with just the right amount of heat. Alright, it's been 8 hours. Let's remove the lengua from the slow cooker. Let it cool down for about 20 minutes. Now get some heat-resistant gloves and start out by removing the skin. Now let's give it a chop. This smells great, but as you can see, it's overcooked. Giving it a quick taste, yep, this is very good. But the taste is very familiar to the boiling method. Okay, so I'm completely shocked with the results. I really expected the Crockpot version to just be my favorite. I thought it was going to be convenient. Thought I could put a lengua in the morning and then after work, 8 hours later, I'd be good. But it was slightly overcooked. It wasn't bad. Still had great flavor, but I couldn't also differentiate it between the boiled lengua. If you wanted to be cooked faster, you might want to just stick with boiling the lengua. If you like the texture of lengua like this, then this looks like it's a great method. I like mine with a little bit more texture though. Let's see how the sous vide tongue is looking like. After 24 hours in the sous vide, let me remove, unseal, and then place in this pan. The tongue does feel firmer. Let's take off the skin. The skin removes much easier, and I think this is going to slice better than the first. The texture and doneness just feels right. Let's slice. Oh yeah, much better. The sous vide tongue peeled very easily, and it cubed up very nicely. Really held up its form, unlike the Crockpot method. The seasoning is very similar.
Oh, that's solid.
But there's just more flavor in that sous vide. And that probably has a lot to do with that flavor just being compacted into that bag. The flavor is very concentrated, and it's absolutely delicious. Now, the biggest disadvantage is obviously the time. Who has 24 hours? But if you want to treat your family to something special, give this a try. But I think this is the best way to do it. Now, if you're the type of person to just think of dinner at that very spot, you go to the grocery store, grab yourself a lengua, and you want to cook it that same day, then obviously you want to go with the boiling method. I grew up eating it that way. I'm still going to boil it. But once in a while, I want something nice. I'm definitely going to use the sous vide machine because that has a lot of flavor. Since our grill is still hot, I'm placing in the flat top to the grill, and then I'm going to be using it to sear our lengua. Add a little oil, and when hot, let's drop in our lengua. Do not skip this process. Whether it's a pan in the kitchen or outside on the grill, give it a nice sear. This is very tasty. Little squeeze of lime or lemon juice. Let's lightly season. I'm going to add some onion here. And I'm going to be dropping in some jalapenos as well, just in case I want the extra heat. This smells so good. Now, how do you like to eat beef tongue? You know what? My favorite way is still making some tacos out of it. Let's build a few and then do a taste test. Get our tortilla, add some meat, fresh cilantro and onion, hit it with our fire roasted green salsa, and wham! I don't know why people hate on beef tongue so much, but hey, you don't have to eat it. More beef tongue for me, I guess. This is freaking great. That's a fantastic taco. Did I convince any of you? No, maybe boiling it is still your preferred method. I don't blame you. It's much faster. However, go check out this next video. I got a tip to make it even go faster. Now, this is a game-changing tip that you should absolutely do, and you should absolutely check out that video if you like lengua. Taco time. Oh yeah.